Passover till Shavuos. Each day is a journey, an ascent, climbing the mountain. And the concept of Sphira, as we're all well aware, is we are working on perfecting our character on the various characteristics. This world, this finite physical world, is broken into 7. One of the most fascinating anomalies that we find in the world at large is that in every civilization they have a 7-day week. Different languages, different cultures, different mindsets, but it's a 7-day week. The world is fragmented into 7. We have 7 colors in the rainbow. All color are essentially pigments and variations from those 7 colors, which at their source, basically, as we understand, is white light with a refraction. It will disseminate into 7 different colors. We have 7 notes of music. Sound is sound. But in the material, finite, physical sense, it will be broken down into fragmented elements that are sourced in the number 7.
7 octaves.
7 notes, yes, 7 octaves. We have 7 days of the week. We've discussed many times before that anything with physical dimensions really has 6 polarities to it, like a cube, and the 7th is the Shabbos, the center which animates everything in this world. The godliness, the spiritual. But 7 is a very important number. We have 7 primary characteristics that compose our material body. They're the essential ingredients of the way and the manner in which we function. We call them, we're not going to go into them right now, maybe we'll discuss them at another time, but they're called Chesed, Gevura, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchus. Chesed is kindness. The 2 first characteristics are the 2 essential energies that flow through the human body that contradict one another, if you will, the yang and the yin. Chesed, the kindness, the desire to draw close. Gevura, the discipline, the ability to apply the brake. And then we have Tiferes, which is the fusion, the perfect balance of those 2 characteristics. Then we have on a more advanced level, on a deeper level, we have what's called Netzach and Hod and Yesod. Netzach, which we translated very loosely as being eternity, capturing eternity. We'll try and analyze that another time. Hod is inner beauty. Yesod is the foundation. And then Malchus, kingdomship. These 7 characteristics were perfected in Kabbalistic terms by our 7, what we call the 7 shepherds, or the 7 primary forces that led and impacted the Jewish people for all future generations. Abraham is kindness. Isaac is Gevura, discipline. It's reflected in his life and everything the Torah tells us about him. Jacob is the balance between the 2. Moshe is Netzach, is eternity. Aharon, the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, reflects and perfected the characteristic of Hod, bringing out that inner glory, shine and beauty of a Jew, seeing the goodness in every Jew and so on. And Joseph was the one who perfected the mid of Yesod, the foundation, the holiness, the ability to lock kindness, goodness, and discipline in a very fundamental way. We'll talk about it. And Malchus is King David, kingdomship. But these 7 characteristics reflect the 7 weeks between Passover and Shavuos, where on Passover we came out of Egypt, the light bulb went on, and we were illuminated with our inner goodness and inner essence. And then we have to work through the characteristics in order to concretize and realize in a very real way who we are. The commentaries tell us that this concept is an extremely important one in life. You know, we talk about change, being good, and realizing our potential, and living a meaningful and fulfilling life. Well, if we don't have a glimpse a clarity, the light bulb doesn't go on and we don't see who we are and what we can be, then we're constantly going to be grasping straws. We're constantly going to be trying this and trying that and wanting to be good. One has to see the light at the end of the tunnel. One has to have an image, a sense, an intuitive sense, some measure of clarity of who we really are at the core, at the essence, so that then when we revert back to reality, we're locked in a body that superimposes upon itself, upon ourselves, upon our soul, upon our essence, upon our being, so many limitations. We get angry, we get frustrated, we get anxious, we get worked up. We're so conscious and self-conscious and a thousand different things that we're dealing with. Well, if we see the light at the end of the tunnel, then we can move forward, we can get there. And when the Jews left Egypt, they saw the light at the end of the tunnel. They felt the love in its greatest intensity. They were there. They just weren't there, having attained it and realized it through their own hard work, through perfecting the body so that the soul can actually shine through the body. These parashas that we read, the Torah portions between Passover and Shavuos, are all dealing with perfecting the body. We normally read the Torah portion that deals with Lashon Hara, Tazria, Metzora. Very hard to perfect speech. We've talked about it in the past. Before Passover, we talked about it at length, how speech is the essence, the breath, the neshama, the soul of a person being fused with the body. And speech has to be real. We have to work through the body to make it real because we're deceptive by nature. We're not so real. The breath gets warped and obfuscated as it is transformed into words through the medium of the body. It's got to work through the body to make ourselves a little more real. And then we talk about Acharemos, Yom Kippur. We talk about perfecting our character, making sure that we're firmly implanted in the Beis HaMikdash. We talked about this last Torah portion, Shchutei Chutz. Then we're going to talk about in this week's Torah portion, all about good character. Don't take revenge. Don't bear a grudge. Love your neighbor like yourself. That is the entire Torah. Working through the body so that there is no trace of I, and so that the soul can shine through and we can be real. And so on. And the next parashas also, Emor and Bahar, also talk about working through the physical characteristics that we have so that we can perfect ourselves. And so then we can journey to Shavuos, to the giving of the Torah, as we are working through our 7 primary characteristics and trying to perfect ourselves, so that when we come to Shavuos, we're more real. Life is a constant journey. We go back, we go forward, we go back, we go forward, we go back, we go forward, but at the end of it all, we're ascending, because we're engaged in the task of realizing who we truly are. What is our mission? What were we born for? We want to be better people. I want to share with you today a thought. Because it's Rosh Chodesh Iaar, let me share with you a thought. We don't have a chumash here. We'll have to bring in a few chumashim, but you know.
Well, it's right there.
Great. That's long. We have an allusion to the month of Iaar, which is found in a verse. Anybody know where the verse is? There's an allusion to the month of Iaar in the Torah portion of Beshalach. The Jewish people just witnessed the crossing of the sea. And they sang the song at the crossing of the sea. And they experienced their first challenge after the crossing of the sea. And God says to them like this. Vayoma, Moses says on behalf of Hashem, he says, Im shamoa tishma l'kol Hashem Elokecha. If you shamoa tishma, that means a double listen. You listen, we're all listening. But how much is actually getting really sucked into our very being and absorbed in every fiber of our body? Listening in Hebrew really means to understand, to absorb. So shmoa tishma means a very diligent listening. If you listen so much so that you want, there's no resistance, you want this to be a part of you. You're listening l'kol Hashem Elokecha, to the voice of Hashem your God. There's a voice and there's a voice. They're words that we communicate messages with. But words are only the external cloak of an inner message and an inner resonance. There's something much deeper when we speak that we're communicating. There's more than words. It's the inner message. There's depth to words. If you listen not to the words of Hashem your God, l'koil Hashem Elokecha, to the voice, the inner voice of Hashem your God, and you do v'hayosha bein of tasa, and you do what is correct in his eyes, and you listen to his mitzvahs, and you guard his statutes, then here's the promise. This is the return, the dividends. What's going to be the dividends in this world? I would think that God would say, if you listen to me and you do everything I want, I guarantee you, you're going to have tons of mon. You'll have plenty of money to pay all your bills. You'll have no worries. You'll have good health. You'll have fertility. You'll have bounty. You'll have crops. The rain will come down. You'll have all the blessings and benefits that you could wish for. And that is actually what is written in the Torah in the beginning of B'chukoisai, the reward that is outlined and reserved for one who listens and follows in God's statutes. That's what I would imagine. But that's not what God says over here. Hashem promises us, these are the words, Kol ha-machala, all the sicknesses and maladies and diseases, Asher samti b'Mitzrayim, which I placed on Egypt, lo asim alecha, I will not place on you. Why not? Why won't I place them on you? Ki ani Hashem rofecha, for I am Hashem your healer. Ki ani Hashem rofecha, for I am Hashem your healer. I'm sorry. The verse is very difficult to understand. Whoa. I'm listening to you, God. I'm all yours. I'm following diligently your mitzvahs, your chukim, everything. I'm a soldier in your army. I'm rising from rank to rank. What's going to be the ultimate reward? All the sicknesses that God put on the Egyptians, he won't put on us. Because I'm your God, your healer. What do you make of that? Sounds a little strange, doesn't it? And listen, if God ain't going to put the sicknesses, why do we need any healing? There's no need for any healing. We don't have any sicknesses. The commentaries say that the words, Ani Hashem Rofecha, I am Hashem your God, are an allusion to the month of Iaar. Ani begins with the letter Ani, Aleph. Hashem is 2 yuds. Rofecha, your healer, begins with Resh. You have the Iaar, the letter Iaar, encoded in the Torah. Iaar. Ani, I, Hashem, your God, Rofecha, your healer. Your healer. And the commentaries say that the source, if we want to understand the power and the hidden energy that is latent in the month of Iaar, it lies here in this pasuk where you see the month of Iaar. You see Iaar right there in the words, I am Hashem your healer. Could anybody explain that to me? I am Hashem your healer. That is the month of Iaar. And God's promising us that all the sicknesses and diseases that he put upon the Egyptians, he's not going to put on us, because I'm Hashem your healer. The Gemara tells us, in the name of Rosh, that there's a distinction between the Jewish people and the nations of the world. When we came out of Egypt, we became a nation apart. We became God's chosen people. And the distinction, the Gemara tells us, Rosh tells us in the Gemara, is very simple. With the Jewish people, God brings the healing. He prepares the medicine before he brings the affliction. He's makdim what we call refuah, the healing, lamaka, to the affliction. So before even God brings any punishment to the Jewish people, there's already the remedy is in place for us to access so that we can gain repair. We can be healed. And the Gemara brings a source to prove that. The nations of the world, God will afflict them and God will heal them. There'll be a challenge, a problem, and there'll be a healing, there'll be a solution. But it's not that the solution is prepared before the healing, before the challenge, before the affliction. We have to understand it. I mean, to us it's just the same. I mean, ultimately, if everybody's going to be healed, what's the difference if God prepared the medicine before the affliction? Thank you. So what? Let's try and probe this a little bit deeper and we'll understand. I am Hashem, your healer. A father trying to find the right analogy to be able to understand this a little bit better. We lived through the miracle of Purim. We talked a lot about Purim when we were there. We understood that Purim was 30 days before Passover because it's the prelude and it's the introduction to the festival of Passover. And one of the great Jewish sages, the Chassam Sofer, writes that there are many aspects to the miracle of Purim. We read the Megillah. Haman wanted to destroy the Jewish people, and everything he did turned on his face. Incredible, miraculous. Esther is just there in the palace, and she's able to influence Achashverosh, and he annuls the decree. Everything in the Megillah falls into the realm of the natural. Which husband wouldn't listen to his wife if he's in love with her? The book, it was coincidence. The book just opened up the day that, the month or whatever, everything that happened in the Megillah can be transcribed to the natural. There's one thing that is the source of the real celebration of Purim over there. Achashverosh conducted festivities for 180 days. And the Jewish people sinned and erred, the commentators say, by eating and indulging in that feast. That non-kosher, that non-spiritually kosher feast. At that very feast, Hashem was sealing the decree, their fate, that they were going to be annihilated. And at the very same time, Vashti was being called into the king's presence, and she refused to come, and so she was going to be deposed, and Hashem was preparing the pathway for Esther to be installed as the queen, and he was putting together all the jigsaw pieces for the future miracle. That, says the Chassam Sofer, is what Purim is really all about. Beneath the surface, when a father loves a child, everything he does for the child. A father... I had a friend who had a very successful company, and he was bringing in his son into the company. And he told me he put his son in the sales department, and he basically put him through the ringer. He treated him like everybody else, and he barked orders at him like everybody else. And he forced him to go out in the field and learn the territory and make the sales. And slowly but surely the kid wormed his way up the ladder, the corporate ladder, until finally he was ready and groomed to replace his father. Now when that son came out of college, came out of Koilel, wherever he was coming into the company, and in his first few days, his dad was kicking him around and he was treated like everybody else, he must have felt horrible, like here I'm the son of the boss. And everybody's looking at me and expecting me to be a little bit more privileged. And here I'm being forced and pushed. And it's hard. But the father knew that's the only way that the son is really going to be groomed for true leadership. He's going to understand the company's structure and its needs from the ground up. If he gets it on a silver platter, he's just not going to have it. So everything the father did was really for the sake of the son. Everything was for the sake of the son. If Hashem prepares for us a punishment, it's not a punishment. We're not being whipped. We're not going to jail because we did something wrong. We're going to jail so that we can come out transformed, reformed, reconnected. When God sent us down into Egypt for 400 years as slaves, it's all with the end in mind. God says to Abram, I'm going to send them down to Egypt and they're going to be afflicted and tormented for 400 years, and then they will go out with Rosh Gadol, with great wealth. We understand that as great spiritual wealth. They're going to become my chosen people. The only way they could realize that, God's preparing that we should become his completely chosen people, one with him. Our ego had to be crushed down to its lowest common denominator in Egypt, and we could only realize true greatness by going through the crucible of suffering in Egypt. So God's preparing it all for the sake of coming out. That's what it means. Hashem prepares the refuah, the healing, before the Makkah. Because it's all about us being one with Hashem. The body has a fascinating capacity. God created us humans with an ability to heal. We naturally heal. Amazing. Even the brain can actually replenish brain cells. Even after a stroke, the brain can actually substitute different brain cells obviously with intense physical therapy and training, but we can actually relearn things that aren't even there. The body has a capacity to rejuvenate. It's natural to the body. The cells are constantly rejuvenating, replenishing. In medical science, we know that the body every 9 months is an entirely new body. It's completely regenerated. It looks exactly the same to us. Same ears, same head, same hands. But it's changed. It's new. Renewal is essential to life. If we would be stagnant, we would grow weeds, get rusty, and disintegrate. Renewal is the essence of who we are. Chidush. Chodesh, we become new. Rosh, Chodesh, the moon starts afresh. A new cycle. We're constantly being pulled back and pushed forward. The ebb and flow of life. But it's all for one purpose, of being healed. It's all for one purpose, of being healed. In fact, we know that if we break a bone, it can actually heal back stronger than in its original state. We need sometimes to be broken in order to be stronger. Metal, you put it in a refinery, the higher the heat, the more it's broken down and melted and smelted, the more tersile it will be when it's cools off, when it comes back. The more it's metal is tested. That's life. We choose, we're willing to be crushed because we're willing to go through exile, because we understand that's inherent and essential. Hashem has prepared this Makkah in order that we should be ripoi, we should be one with Him. We're working on it's the harbinger of becoming a stronger person, a greater person, a better person. It goes hand in hand. It's inherent to who we are. Yeah? Good. Slacha. So Iaar, very beautiful that in this pasuk we have a hint to what Iaar, what this month is really all about. It's the month that is sandwiched in between the exodus of Egypt, our realizing and attaining our Jewish identity, and Shavuos. And in this month, the primary purpose of the month is character perfection. Digging deep. Working on our midas. Working on our midas means breaking ourselves down. But breaking ourselves down, we will naturally heal back to our real full strength. Our soul will be able to shine in its fullest zenith through the body, because the body has been distilled, clarified, worked through. We've worked through our character. We're honest. We're working through our characteristics. And so it's there, here, in this pasuk, God says to them, you know what the greatest blessing, if you follow my statutes and you do my mitzvahs, you know what the greatest blessing is? That I'm not going to treat you like the Egyptians, where when they get hit, there's a purpose why they're getting hit. And then they'll heal. Yeah, the Egyptian civilization came back to itself. But it didn't yet learn the lesson. The Makkah and the Refuah go hand in hand. Hashem has already prepared the Refuah as the essential reason why He's giving us the Makkah. The Makkah isn't a punishment. It in itself is a cure. It's a pathway to cure. Ki ani Hashem Refecha. And the commentaries say, Ani, when we take our eye and we're transforming it into Hashem, we're doing the will of Hashem, we're harnessing it and surrendering it to the will of Hashem, that's Rofecha. That is the healing. That's how we restore our spiritual vitality and strength. I'm giving you over some thoughts, some ideas. They're rather loosely connected, but it's definitely some food for thought. And it's worth putting in the pipe and smoking. Good pipes. Okay, it's Rosh Chodesh, guys, so we're going to celebrate a little bit. In the olden days, Rosh Chodesh was a day of great celebration. And in fact, it's always a day of a Zebach Mishpacha, the special sacrifices that were brought. It was a national holiday. Everybody came together. We just read on the Haftorah of this week the story of David, Yehonatan, and Shaul, and you see that there was on both days of Rosh Chodesh, there was a great Zevach, a great feast that everybody came to. Unfortunately, with the passage of time, Rosh Chodesh being that it doesn't have too many special laws associated with it, in the passage of time, the celebration of Rosh Chodesh is pretty much forgotten. In fact, for most of us going to shul Rosh Chodesh, oh gosh, I come to shul, oh my gosh, it's Rosh Chodesh, the davening is another 20 minutes, oh my. And then we're all worried, we're going to forget Yala V'Yava and Shachos, we're going to have to say the whole thing over again. And Rosh Chodesh is just, one other day with responsibilities, like we are apt to look at the rituals and religious responsibilities as onerous, restrictive, rigid, just another thing. But we want to be celebratory Jews! We want to look at everything as an opportunity. God isn't standing over us with a stick. He's looking over us with a big smile. Wants us to rejoice, to celebrate, to get what we can. Sometimes we're in it for real. Sometimes we just let the waters pass over us and we capture a little of the breeze and we try to get what we can. But Rosh Chodesh is a big day. At least we know that it's a big day. So Rabbi, so we're going to have a l'chaim together, celebrate a little together, got some cookies, and a little bit of... Nobody has to have, you can have, oh, it's leaking. Oh my goodness. Oh. I'm going to leave all the incriminating evidence here on the table. Rabbi Braun. Shoot. Okay, we need some tissues, guys. There we go.